Good morning, everyone. Hare Krishna. I'd like to thank the temple authorities for giving me this opportunity to speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam in front of such an august assembly of devotees. Thank you. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, I believe we have a few verses to cover, but the verse we're chanting is number 14. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 65, Text 14. The title of this chapter is Lord Balaram Visits Vrindavan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So because we have a few verses, I'll just quickly chant the verses and go through the verses and the purports. Otherwise it'd take 45 minutes. So verse 14, Kim nastat kataya kopya katya katya ita para yat yasam abir vina kalo yadi tasya tadaivana. We'll go to verse 11 and then we'll arrive at 14. So verse 11, gopis are speaking to Balaram. For Krishna's sake, O descendant of Dashhara, we abandon our mothers, fathers, brothers, husbands, children, and sisters, even though these family relations are difficult to give up. But now, O Lord, that same Krishna has suddenly abandoned us and gone away, breaking off all affectionate ties with us. And yet how could any woman fail to trust his promises? Text 13. How can intelligent city women possibly trust the words of one whose heart is so unsteady and who is so ungrateful? They must believe him because he speaks so wonderfully, and also because his beautiful, smiling glances arouse their lust. Purport. According to Sridhar Swami, some gopis speak the first two lines of this verse, and others reply in the second two lines. And this is the verse we chanted the Sanskrit. Why bother talking about him, dear gopis? Please talk of something else. If he passes his time without us, then we shall similarly pass ours without him. Very deep verses today. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami points out that the gopis here subtly indicate that Lord Krishna spends his time happily without them, whereas they are most unhappy without their Lord. This is the difference between him and them. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds the following commentary. Considering themselves different from other women, the gopis thought as follows. If other women are together with their lovers, they live. And if given meaning, the word hridayam kamai also indicates that these messages were confidential. Oma Gyan Smedandasya Ganan Gana Shalakaya Chaksvinamiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manovishkam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Shvayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadanti Sva Padantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasvani Gaura Vrindam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Shakala Vaishnava Pare, Mora Namaskara, Iti Kichu Aparada Nahuka Amara, Hoichan Hoiben, Prabhu Jatu Bhakta Vrinda, Bandana Kori Shabara, Charanar Avinda. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas, praying I will not commit offenses in my attempts to please them. To all Vaishnavas, who have ever been, and to all Vaishnavas who will ever be, I offer my respectful obeisances to the lotus feet. This is composed by a great poet named Devakinandan Das. Another beautiful prayer. I offer my obeisances to my spiritual master, who gave me beautiful Kantimala, effulgent tilak, the beautiful form of a devotee, and who offered me his shelter. In one of his hands, he is holding my hand, and with his other hand, he is holding the lamp of knowledge, which helps me to cross over the dark ocean of the material world. The poet Surdas says, "My Guru deserves the greatest respect, because only he can rescue one in the blinking of an eye. I bow down to him again and again and again." So, dear Prabhus, once again, the title of this chapter is very significant. It's Balaram Returns to Vrindavan. We gave class a couple of days ago, and we mentioned how both Krishna and Balaram left for Mathura on the invitation of Kamsa on a Kura's chariot. And from there, they went on to Dwarka. Krishna established the city of Dwarka to protect the Yadu dynasty, and one of his purposes, of course, was to defeat the Asuras who were harassing the devotees. So Krishna didn't go back to Vrindavan immediately. He felt he had to protect his devotees in both Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka from the Asuras. And there were many great battles with Jarasandha. We mentioned another subtle reason why Krishna didn't go back to Vrindavan, and that was that he wanted to increase his devotees' love for him, because there's that principle, separation makes the heart grow fonder. It's an essential theme in our whole process of Krishna consciousness, and we will touch on it today, although I have no qualification to discuss this matter, but I'm sitting here today, and that's the nature of the verse. Verses, the gopis are feeling so much separation from Krishna. So Krishna lived in Dwarka for 96 years. 96 years. And during that time, the residents of Vrindavan, and we have to say especially the cowherd girls, the gopis, because I was reading recently, or listening recently to Prabhupada, and he was speaking about the flavor of different devotee services. There's different types of devotees with different moods of serving Krishna. It was a short class, and Prabhupada got to one point and he said, but the gopis, they never asked anything from Krishna. They just wanted to serve Krishna. And Prabhupada broke down crying. It's a lecture. The lecture was 10 minutes. Then he said, all right, that was it. So everyone in Vrindavan, the Brajbasis, they love Krishna more than anyone's ever been loved before. And so in separation, their hearts are pounding in separation. But that separation enhances their hankering for Krishna and love. So especially the cowherd girls, they were feeling separation. We, as aspiring devotees, can hardly understand the separation that the residents of Vrindavan felt when Krishna left. Logically, as much as you're attached to something, to that degree you feel separation from that item when you lose it, isn't it? If you lose your pencil, it hurts a little bit. But if someone steals your car, it's very painful. So how attached were the Vraja gopis to Krishna? Again, they loved Krishna more than anyone has ever been loved before. So therefore their pangs of separation are impossible to understand except for what? The most advanced devotees. I remember one time sitting in front of Prabhupada, like this young man is sitting here. Prabhupada had come to Paris. His previous visit he'd installed beautiful Radha Parasishwara. He gave the Radha Krishna deities the name Radha Parasishwara. And at that ceremony, at one point Prabhupada was standing in front of Parasishwara with his hands folded and praying to him. I was standing right next to him, I could see. So a month later, Prabhupada got a photograph of that moment, and he remarked, "Oh, see, Krishna's looking at me, and I am looking at Krishna." It was so sweet. So the next visit Prabhupada came, he sat down on the Vyasasana after greeting the deities, and he started singing Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Balaba. And at that point, Prabhupada started shaking. His kartals dropped. And I turned to the temple president. I was a new devotee, still a new devotee. And I said, "Prabhupada's having a stroke." He said, "No. Prabhupada's feeling ecstasy. He's feeling the mood of the separation from Krishna." And I watched as Prabhupada, the tears, they didn't go like this, they came out of his eyes like that. They were jetting, and he was trembling. And we were completely silent. We didn't know what we were supposed to do or not do, but I was sitting there thinking, here I am seeing a resident of Vrindavan, Nitya Siddha, eternal resident of Vrindavan, displaying deep affection for the Lord. And it happens rarely, just like Jesus said, "Sometimes my cup runneth over with love." So generally the pure devotees don't show their deeper sentiments because they don't want the public to follow them for that reason. They want the public to follow them for the knowledge that they're giving, which takes us out of material life into spiritual life. So Prabhupada came too like that. He said, "Hare Krishna, that's all." Went upstairs. Someone said, "That's all." I said, "That's enough, Prabhu." It was wonderful. So this mood of separation, we discuss it from time to time because it's in our scriptures where we must discuss it. But really it's only understood by very advanced devotees. But we can get a glimpse. We got a glimpse that day. But all of us can get a glimpse of that mood from the words of Madhavinda Puri. You know Madhavinda Puri, he appeared before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he introduced this mood of Braj Bhakti. Because previously, through the eons of time, people worshipped Krishna, Narayan, they worshipped God, in the mood of Aishwarya Bhav. It means the mood of awe and reverence. That mood must be there first before one goes deeper into Krishna consciousness. That's why we study the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam before we get to the 10th canto, where Krishna is engaging more intimately with his devotees. We can still understand he's God, but he's very kindly allowing himself to be approached in a very intimate way. So it's a science. So Madhavinda Puri was the one who introduced this idea of the mood of the Brajavasis. Everything for Krishna, nothing for myself. Especially the mood of the gopis. He introduced that, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and through the 6 Goswamis, he established the mood of the Brajavasis as the highest sentiment of love of God. So when Madhavinda Puri was on his deathbed, he was calling out to Krishna in a feeling of separation that the same gopis, or the gopis expressed when Krishna left Vrindavan. Just like we're hearing today. These verses that we recited today, these are probably some of the most deepest verses of the Grantha Raj Srimad Bhagavatam. They're very deep. And that same mood that the gopis are expressing to Balaram today, Madhavinda Puri, he expressed that when he was leaving his body. He left behind for us a little glimpse of what it is, what is separation from Krishna. A very famous verse. He called out, "Ayi dina dayadra nata he, mathura nata kara boloksha yase, hridayam tvad alokaka taram, daita namyati kim karom yaham." O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, When shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved, what shall I do now? This is the mood of it. The most advanced devotee of the Lord, the Brajbasi, feeling separation from Krishna. I first heard this verse in a Bhagavatam class. The third day I joined the movement. I didn't really I didn't understand it. But that afternoon we went on Harinam, and the Sankirtan leader, he sang this verse on Harinam. I said, wasn't this very deep? He said, yes, but as part of our philosophy, the people have to hear. I said, okay. We were chanting Hare Krishna. So then he started singing the verse on the streets of Detroit. O my Lord, O gracious to the lowly, thou art now living in Mathura. When will thou come to me, O darling mine? My heart is burning in pains of separation. Oh, what shall I do? Oh, what shall I do? Oh, what shall I do? We got a crowd. People were like... I said, maybe we should just chant that in our temple. Anyway, Lord Chaitanya is very kind. So when Madhavinda Puri chanted that verse, there was one disciple present at that time. His name was, don't want to say his name, but Ramachandra Puri. He was a foolish and ignorant disciple, and being so, he said to Madhavinda Puri, Guru Maharaj, why are you lamenting like a worldly man who's about to die? Because you could take it like that if you're foolish or ignorant, this verse that he's called out like the gopis. Why are you lamenting? Why are you lamenting like an ordinary man? And fortunately, there was another disciple there, his name was Ishwara Puri, who understood that his spiritual master was actually experiencing separation from Krishna. And because of that understanding and the service that he rendered, Ishwara Puri, to Madhavinda Puri, he would even clean up his stool and urine because he's dying and the body is falling apart. He did this menial service and had so much faith. Because of that, he was empowered later to become the very spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So of course, this matter of separation, it's called Vipralamba Bhav. It's a very elevated subject matter. But even as neophyte devotees, we're being trained one day, hopefully, to experience this mood. It's not forbidden for us to discuss it because it's our goal. In the BBT publication, that little book, right, we distribute it on Sankirtan everywhere, Elevation to Krishna, Chapter 5. We're distributing this book everywhere. Prabhupada says, those who follow the teachings of Lord Chaitanya should experience and relish the feelings of separation, not meeting. That's a whole class. Sambhog means meeting, and Vipralam means separation. So it's kind of a transcendental science how the gopis are feeling separation from Krishna one day, and the next day they get to maybe meet him, for the rasa dance. So going back, separation, meeting, this is the whole theme of Vrindavan. It's the whole theme. And Prabhupada said here, separation is better than meeting. In the book, Elevation to Krishna, Chapter 5, which we distribute every day in Paris and London and Sydney and Moscow, Prabhupada wanted us to know. Therefore, we're discussing the subject matter today, by His grace. I remember when Prabhupada came to New Mayapur, I think it was 1974, we just established that community, like a farming community, had a big chateau, and Prabhupada came and was very pleased that we purchased this huge property. We were 300 devotees, 100 kids in the Gurukul, lots of families. We were the best book distributors in Europe. Prabhupada came. He said to us on his arrival, if we had 5 properties like this in Europe, we'd take over the whole continent. We went, Haribol, like, we're going to do it tomorrow. I'm still trying. But one afternoon he gave darshan on the lawn in front of the castle. And I didn't want to sit too close because I had all this mood of awe and reverence. I didn't want to get too close to Prabhupada. I just sit a little distance away. So he spoke how the devotee sees Krishna everywhere. He was speaking from the 10th chapter, Opulence of the Absolute. So there's indications how one can see Krishna in nature. Anything wonderful is indication of the glory of God. So he said a devotee who's trained, he'll see Krishna everywhere. That was the theme of the darshan. And at the end, he said, are there any questions? So, every disciple wants the guru to notice him or her, right? So I'm thinking, well, if I ask a question, Prabhupada he'll know that I exist. And maybe he'll look at me and I'll get some mercy. So I raised my hand. Srila Prabhupada, I have a question. I didn't have a question. I leaped before I should jump. He said, yes, what is your question? I had to think quick. I said, Srila Prabhupada, you have been speaking that the pure devotee sees Krishna everywhere. But in the Shikshastra compares, Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of a devotee, is saying, oh Govinda, feeling your separation. I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. It's the opposite, Srila Prabhupada, that the devotee's feeling he doesn't see Krishna anywhere. Can you explain this? So Prabhupada, and then he looked at me for a long time. He said, this is very deep subject matter. He said, in Krishna's absence, one thinks of him more and the love for him increases more. And I kind of went, I didn't. He said, this you'll not understand, but one day when you're advanced, you'll understand this principle of Vipralamba Bhava. So I thought, well, Prabhupada said one day, maybe I'll understand it. So I whoa. That's a long way away, Prabhupada. But that's the kindness of Prabhupada, that he took the time to explain these deeper concepts to us. Just like there was a singer, I won't use his name in this class, but a reggae singer, he one time said, we know who we are and we know where we're going. So we know who is God. Many times in Western countries when I'm preaching, I'll ask people, who is God? He's God. Anything else? He lives up there. Anything else? Well, if I'm bad, I won't go there. I'll go down. I'm not being disrespectful. I said, well, sir, how can you love someone you know nothing about? Why does a person accept a wife or husband, in particular because of the way they dress, the way they talk, their humor, their profession, the clothes they like, the song? Love is in the details. So how can ultimately we awaken our love for God unless we know who He actually is? And that's the beauty of our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. We can see Krishna every day in His full glory. My dear Lord, you are not a statue. You are directly the son of Maharaj Nanda. And our expert pujaris are decorating and dressing the deities so nicely, as Krishna is in Vrindavan. So in that way, because we know who Krishna is, we know what the abode of Vrindavan is like, and we know the mood, the selfless mood of devotion by which the Brajbasis are serving Him. Everything for you, nothing for me. It's all about you, it's not about me. That mood of Braj, we know it, and therefore we're trying for it. We're to keep it in our sights by reciting these verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, separation. We'll get a little technical here. There's actually 4 kinds of separation from Krishna. Not just one, there's 4. Puvarag, Mana, Pravasa, and Prema Vaichitya. Different types of ways that the Brajavasis feel separation from Krishna. In Purvaraga it's described that even before you meet your lover, you're anticipating separation from them. This is typical with the younger gopis, they're always observing Krishna from a distance. By social custom, they can't associate closely. Boys and girls didn't associate closely. So the gopis, they're seeing Krishna from a distance at every opportunity. Just like when Krishna goes to herd the cows in the morning, the gopis peek out from the windows of their homes. They look at him, they get attached, but they can't meet him. But by that attachment, they're feeling intense separation. They haven't even met Krishna, but just by looking at him, he's so beautiful, he's so wonderful, he's so amazing. As he walks by with his cowherd friends and the cows to the pasturing grounds of Vrindavan, they just see him, how charming he is. They get attached and they feel separation. Even before meeting, this is Purva Rag. The second type of separation is called mana. It means that you're with the lover, but you know one day you'll be separated. The gopis will be with Krishna sometimes. They're in the evenings, they're with Krishna. There's the rasa dance, but they know the separation is going to come. That's called mana. It's intolerable. You don't want that day to come, but that's life. There's that saying, tomorrow always comes too soon. Tomorrow always comes too soon. So the Rasa Lila dance, it lasts one night of Brahma. What's that? Millions and millions and millions of years. But gopis are thinking, we're going to be separated. And it causes some pain. That's called mana. And the third type of separation is called pravasa. It means when you're actually separated from your lover, meaning Krishna, of course. For example, when Krishna left Vrindavan and went to Mathura, the residents of Vrindavan is described by the Goswamis, they were drowned in pravasa. He left when he didn't come back. And again, this particular sentiment, this pravasa, that's the verse, O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. So that's pravasa. And then the fourth type of separation, it's extremely deep and esoteric. It's called prema vaichitya. We won't go into detail, but prema vaichitya means you're feeling separation although your lover is right next to you. There's a famous pastime of Radha and Krishna, which maybe we can tell another time. Prema vaichitya, that you're with your lover, but you don't know you're with your lover because you're thinking of your lover and you're in separation. So prema vaichitya, you're crying in separation when you're with Krishna or Krishna's with Radha. Anyway, 4 types of separation. So the other day, a devotee said to me, I just don't understand. I'm spending my whole life trying to reconnect with Krishna only to eventually be separated from him? Well, what is this? You know, we started off, 10, 20, 30, some devotees 50 years ago. It's all about reconnection. Connection's always there, of course. But we've forgotten Krishna, but he never forgets us even for a moment. So we're reconnecting. Actually, the word religion comes from the Latin verb regulio, which means to connect. And the word yoga has the same meaning. It also means to connect with Bhagavan, with Krishna. So to connect. So after finally making that connection, the devotee said, I'm going to be separated the rest of my life for eternity. So I had to think how to explain it. And sometimes eloquence is truth spoken concisely. So I explained by quoting a short phrase, verse, from she who experiences the greatest separation from Krishna, Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani. In verse 240 of his Padyavali, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada quotes her in the sentiment that she's feeling when she's separated from Krishna. Is it really so bad as that Prabhu was thinking? I'm going to connect and be separated? Well, if we want to know what is separation, we can learn from that person who feels the most intense separation. And Rupa Goswami quotes her, verse 240 of Padyavali. Sangama vihara vikalpye, varam iho viharo, na sangamam tasya ekasa eva sange turibhuvamam apitan mayam virahi. These words are from the lotus mouth of Srimati Radharani. Separation from Krishna is better than meeting him. For when I meet him, there's only one Krishna. But when I'm separated from him, the three worlds become filled with Krishna. So how to understand, like when you're with a person, there's a one-on-one conversation, you're talking about something particular, or you're meditating on something about that person, their eyes or their clothes. But when you're separated from someone, even in this world, right? You're separated, let's say your wife, your husband go away on a business trip. In a flash, you're thinking about so many things about them. How they walk, how they talk, how you used to prepare dinner for them, what that walk you went last Sunday. So many things are flooding your mind in a moment of time because of that loldium, that greed. So this is Radharani's mood. Separation from Krishna is better than meeting him. For when I meet him, there's only one Krishna, but when I'm separated from him, the three worlds become filled with Krishna. And that same mood of separation, it's like a deep understanding, but it's there in our Shastras. That same mood is expressed by Krishna. In Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary to Ujjvala Nilamani, chapter 15, verse 3, his commentary is called Ananta Chandurika. There we hear Krishna say, Sangama viha vikalpe varam iha viraha na. If I had to choose between union and separation, I would prefer separation from my beloved. Because in union, I see her only in one place. Whereas in separation, my entire universe is filled with her. It's practically the same statement, just a few words difference. Because they're lovers, and love is reciprocal. So they're feeling the same sentiments. So it's deep, but it's really interesting. These things have to be discussed. So in this way, in these ways, we can see that both the Lord and the devotee feel separation from each other. There's that mundane statement, love's a two-way street, love's reciprocal. And so while the Brajabasis were all experiencing intense separation from Krishna, when he left Mathura, when he left Vrindavan to go to Mathura and to Dwarka, Krishna was also feeling intense separation from them. I didn't understand that concept. I thought it just, when I first joined, we're just, we're feeling, hankering for Krishna, but Krishna is there and waiting for us. But there's that statement in the Bible that the Lord so much loveth the world that he sent his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. Same sentiment, that God so much loves the people of this world, regardless if they're Bhasharmukha, turn their face from him. Just like sometimes, mother, her son is put into prison. She'll say, he's a good boy. He just was naughty for a moment, please. She forgives because of love. Mother's saying to the police, he's not so bad. So Krishna has that same sentiment. Although we're bad, he still comes once a day. Someone knocks on your door every day. That's something significant. What? So in the Gita we hear once in a day of Brahma. That in higher circles, time is calculated not by our puny humans, but by the time of the demigods. He knocks on the door every day. Sarva dhammam parityajya mamekam saranam vraja hum tam savapapi moksha. Come on home. He's so kind. So as we are awakening our love for him, his love is already fully established. So when Krishna left Braj, he was also feeling intense separation. He didn't forget the Brajabasis, in no way. It's described that when Krishna was in Dwarka, his mind and heart were in Vrindavan. He certainly loved all the residents of Dwarka, but he just couldn't forget the loving sentiments, the 24-karat gold sentiments of the Brajabasis. I was reading in Srimad Bhagavatam by Srila Sanatana Goswami, published by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, that in Dwarka, sometimes when Krishna was asleep at night, in his sleep he would call out the name of Radharani. Hey Radhe! Or Lalita, Vishaka! And the queens are like, what? What's he talking about? And those feelings of separation cause suffering for both Krishna and the Vrajavasis. Of course, we say suffering, but we should understand that the suffering that these great devotees, like our beloved Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas, are feeling, it's not like suffering. Really, it's an impetus for increasing love. For in that same Brihad Bhagavatamritam, Krishna makes this very clear to Narada while in Dwarka. This is really an important verse. Listen carefully. Krishna says to Narada, this anguish of separation is praised as greater than the happiness of enjoying with those one loves. Separation is so pleasing to the mind that it cannot be described. It always transforms at last into an abundance of pleasure. Only experts in tasting these moods can understand how this happens. There you go. When you see the pure devotee crying, oh, it's so sad. No. This anguish of separation is praised as greater than the happiness of enjoying those one loves. Separation is so pleasing to the mind that it cannot be described. It always transforms at last into an abundance of pleasure. Only experts in tasting these moods can understand how this happens. So we worship that Vipralambha Bhav of our great acharyas and the devotees of Vrindavan. Now, part of Krishna's frustration when he was in Dwarka was he couldn't explain that love to the residents of Dwarka, because their love is mixed a little with Aishvarya Bhav, because Krishna's king. Long live the king! Vive le roi! En français. They worship Krishna in that mood, that God is great, and we are very small. But there's also some love is mixed in it. The love increases in Mathura, but is perfected in Vrindavan. Perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. Jiva Goswami gives that analogy. Dwarka is perfect because of the nature of the love of the Dwarkavasis. But Mathura is more perfect because it's more pure, and Vrindavan is most perfect. And where are we situated? By Srila Prabhupada's grace, we're sitting in Sri Vrindavan Dham. So Krishna was frustrated. He wanted to, share his love. He wanted to explain his loving feelings, but how could he explain how in Vrindavan he wrestles with his cowherd friends in the sands of Raman Reddy? How he dances with young girls in the autumn moonlight? I mean, they're going to go like, what? You're the king? So it was frustrating. He couldn't share his heart, always thinking of Braj. But amongst the residents of Dwarka, there were a few who actually understood Braj Bhakti. How's that possible? One of them was Rohini. And who's Rohini? She's the mother of Balaram. She lived in Braj. She gave birth to Lord Balaram in Vrindavan. So she knew this mood of Braj Bhakti. But after some time, Rohini had come to Dwarka. So one day, it's really interesting. This is history. People like history lessons. History lessons in the material world, it's like, history repeats itself. So many difficulties, so many problems, so many politics. But history in Krishna consciousness is very beautiful about Krishna consciousness. So this is the history lessons that we study. One day Krishna approached Rohini and said he was actually thinking of going back to Vrindavan. Sanatana Goswami describes this in Brihad Bhagavatam. Actually, I'm going to leave Dwarka. I'm going back to Braj. What do you think? She said, well, we better think about it. So they called Lord Balaram, and the three of them had a meeting, Krishna, Balaram, and Rohini. And at that meeting, Krishna asked Rohini if she thought that the three of them should go. He said, Mother, what do you think? should we go to Vrindavan secretly without telling Vasudeva and Devaki? Who are Vasudeva and Devaki? Devaki gave birth to Krishna in the jailhouse of Kamsa, not far from here. They were the original parents, but Krishna was transferred to Gokul, as you know, to Yasodhananda Maharaj. So finally, Vasudeva and Devaki, they missed all the childhood pastimes of Krishna, which are so sweet. We're going to celebrate for 1 month the Damodar lila, Damodar Ashtakam. We're going to sing it every evening here for 1 month. Krishna's childhood pastimes, they're so beautiful. They missed them. So they moved, when Krishna went to Dwarka, Vasudeva and Devaki, they went to Dwarka also to see their son. So Krishna said, do you think we should go to Vrindavan without telling them? So Rohini replied, Krishna, Vasudeva and Devaki suffered so much on your behalf, you should be very careful not to disobey them or cause them any pain. You can't leave. So Krishna said, what should I do? Maybe I'll send a representative. It was plan B. I remember we were in France, and Prabhupada was sick in London. He was supposed to come visit us in France. So Prabhupada said, I'm too ill, I'll send my representative, some sannyasi. Okay. Wasn't exactly the same, but it was actually very nice when that sannyasi came. So Krishna can't come, so he's thinking, who can I send as my representative? If you've got an important mission, something that's very dear to your heart, you pick your best man. I often think like that, that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they wanted this Sankirtan movement to spread all over the world. They chose their best man, Srila Prabhupada. I was reading in the Harmonists recently that the one time the sannyasis, with all due respect, the sannyasis, number of the sannyasis of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, they were complaining to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati that this Abai, he's a householder, he gives donations and he comes and gives some classes and he does some kirtan, but why are you giving him so much attention? So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati shot back, do not speak like that. In the end, he will do everything. Srila Prabhupada ki. Don't speak like that. In the end, this Abai, he will do everything. And he did. And therefore, Prabhupada was the best person. It was planned, I think, for 500 years. All these great acharyas, every century, they're working towards that point where the Sankirtan movement can go all over the world as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted. They're all working towards that goal. And finally that goal was achieved when Srila Prabhupada boarded the Jaladuta and went to America. I can imagine, we hear no one was there except his first disciple was there. But actually I think that the 33 million demigods were in the sky, watching that special moment when Srila Prabhupada was going to the West. That's just my fantasy. Anyway, so Krishna thought of Uddhava. He said to Balaram Rohini, as a child, Uddhava worshipped me and developed love for my childhood pastimes. As a youth, he studied under Brihaspati and achieved prema. But he hid that fact from others, as devotees do. Then he studied Srimad Bhagavatam and perceived the truth of love for me. By studying Bhagavatam, he perceived the truth of love for me. This is why we're sitting here today, to perceive the truths of love for Krishna, especially the Brajavasis, because we live in their midst. Therefore, he's the only suitable messenger. So it's a long story. I only have 10 more minutes because I get the grace of 10 extra minutes. He sent for Uddhava, sat him down, took his hand, and requested he go to Vrindavan with messages of his, Krishna's love for the residents there. It's almost as good, isn't it? You can't meet the beloved, you get a letter. Just like one time, I'm sorry to keep speaking about myself, but when Prabhupada came to Detroit, for the first time, we were all new devotees. He did initiations. I was 10 days short of the time frame. You had to be there for 1 year. And the temple president said, you're 10 days short, so you can't get initiated. What? So I was so sad. And when Prabhupada was leaving, I ran upstairs to my room, and I'd given all my money to the temple. I was saving $10 for emergencies. So I took that $10, put it in an envelope, and wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept this gift for your newfound, a company you're going to print books with or something. And thank you for coming. I didn't get initiated, but I hope one day I can. And I'm feeling so much separation from you. I wrote like that. So much separation. I'll be feeling so much separation. I signed it. I ran downstairs, and Prabhupada was getting in the car. It was maybe, 30, 40 meters away. I said, Srila Prabhupada, wait! Like, all the devotees turned around. Who's this person? I have a letter for you. So Prabhupada said, come. So I ran, and Prabhupada was standing in the car, and I said, this is from me to you. He said, what is your name? Bhakta Brian. Put it in his pocket. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived in the temple. And in those days, Prabhupada disciples, they'll tell you that when a letter came from Prabhupada, at least in our temple, the devotee who received that letter had to stand and in Istagosti and read it out loud. Sometimes that was good, sometimes it was awkward. Because the spiritual master blesses, he also has to chastise. So I had to read my letter. My dear Bhakta Brian, please accept my blessings. I want to thank you very much for your letter and your kind donation of $10 towards my newly created book fund. I have information from the temple authorities. You're doing nicely in Krishna consciousness, so keep following the 4 regulative principles, chant 16 rounds a day, and in due course of time, I will accept you as my duly initiated disciple. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhakta. And then I put the letter away, and then I read it later that evening. There was a postscript, P.S., we say post. My dear Bhakta Brian, I can understand your feelings of separation because I'm also experiencing separation from my spiritual master, but I always feel that he's watching over and protecting me. At that moment, that was nice, that Prabhupada's watching over and protecting us, but when Prabhupada departed this world, that letter was like my only solace. I drenched that letter in tears of separation from Srila Prabhupada for many years. So that instruction was very helpful. So the letter was like Prabhupada. I don't know if emails are like that anymore when you get an email, but I can understand Krishna sent a message. He didn't go personally, but he sent a message. He sent a letter with Uddhava to the cowherd boys, to Nanda and Jasoda, and ultimately to the gopis. It was a letter. I'm kind of sad these days that, emails aren't exactly like, a handwritten letter from a friend. Sometimes if I really want to express myself, instead of sending an email, I'll do it snail mail. Snail mail means you write the letter and put it in the post. Someone opens, read it. But I think it's more personal. As Kali Yuga goes on, things become more impersonal. But to get a message from one's beloved is very soothing. So therefore, Krishna couldn't go for various reasons, but he sent his best man, Uddhava. And that episode, it's actually described in chapter 46. Chapter 46, Uddhava's going and meeting all the Vrajabasis and reading Krishna's letter to them. That episode is very dear to the hearts of all Gaudiya Vaishnavas, that chapter. Chapter 46 of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. But it appears that Krishna's messages to the Vrajabasis that Uddhava brought to them went in vain. How can we say that? Because here in chapter 65, in the very verses we're reading today, we hear the gopis in front of Balaram this time responding to the messages that he has brought from Krishna. They're responding in the same way. They're not pacified. They're not pacified. If you listen carefully to these 3 verses, they're not. No. Why are they not pacified? For the simple reason they wanted Krishna, not messages. So in this 65th chapter of the Bhagavatam, we'll see that like Uddhava, Balaram will fail, not a failure, he'll fail to pacify the gopis' feelings of separation. If they were satisfied, then there was no need for Balaram to come, because Uddhava came first. But they weren't satisfied, because we can hear, we don't want these messages. We want Krishna. But now all our acharyas, all our saints and our sages, they agree. He's not going to pacify them. Why should he? Because the gopis and all the residents of Vrindavan are experiencing the deepest love for Krishna in that mood of separation. Just like Krishna prefers to be separated, we heard that, it's very subtle. They don't mind in the long run because there's nothing higher than the separation which brings forth the strongest feelings of love for Krishna. Yes, they do reveal their anguish in separation. That's clear in the 52nd verse of that 47th chapter, the 10th canto. It's a verse that also pulls the heartstrings even of aspiring devotees like you and me. This is how the gopis are expressing their anguish. It's one of my favorite verses. Hey Nata, hey Ramanata, Vraja nat arti nashana, Maknam udara Govinda, Gokulam virji na navad. O Master of the goddess of fortune, O Master of Braj, O Destroyer of all suffering, Govinda, please lift your Gokul out of the ocean of distress to which it is drowning. But as we've discussed, such anguish brings forth a mood of complete dependence on the Lord and a type of selfless love that's not seen anywhere in these 14 worlds, even in Vaikuntha, only in Goloka Vrindavan. And that love was appreciated by Uddhava. He saw it firsthand, even before Balaram arrived in Vrindavan. And he expressed it so nicely for the benefit of all of us to understand how, like that boy said, how am I going to handle it? You'll handle it. Because Uddhava, he said the following: among all persons on earth, these cowherd women alone have actually perfected their embodied lives, for they have achieved the perfection of unalloyed love for Govinda. Their pure love is hankered after by those who fear material existence, by great sages, and by ourselves as well. For one who has tasted the narrations of the infinite Lord, what is the use of taking birth as a high-class Brahman, or even as Lord Brahma himself? The gopis of Vrindavan have given up their association of their husbands, sons, and other family members, who are very difficult to give up, and they have forsaken the path of chastity to take shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda Krishna, which one should search for by Vedic knowledge. Oh, let me be fortunate enough to become one of the bushes, creepers, or herbs in Vrindavan, because the gopis trample them and bless them with the dust of their lotus feet. So in conclusion, we can conclude that Balaram's visit to Vrindavan, that we're studying for the next few weeks, in no way will pacify the Vrajabasis, and the gopis in particular, but rather, on the high note, because you always want to finish on a high note, it will serve to increase their ever-increasing love for Krishna. This is the science of separation. Actually, it's nicely outlined by Srila Prabhupada in the very beginning of our movement. Like in Nectar Devotion, these things are discussed, or Krishna book. He wanted us to discuss these matters, as we did today, under his excellent guidance. For in chapter 46 of Krishna book, he writes, those in the most exalted position of devotional service and ecstasy can live with Krishna always by remembering his pastimes. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given us a transcendental literary work entitled Krishna Bhavanamrita, which is full with Krishna's pastimes. Exalted devotees can remain absorbed in Krishna by reading such books. Any book of Krishna Lila. Even this book, Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book, Ki, which is a summary study of the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, or our teachings of Lord Chaitanya, is actually will actually be a solace for devotees who eventually feel separation from Krishna. Prabhupada gave us everything. Everything. Because here he said, this Krishna book, talk about all the other books, that's fine. Krishna book, he said, it'll give you solace when you reach the stage of Vipralambha Bhav. Prabhupada left everything behind for us. So when, oh when will that day be ours that we'll get to that stage? But that's why we've come here, all of us, isn't it? To Vrindavan, for the simple reason of reconnecting with Gaurnitai, with Krishna Balaram, with Radhasham Sundar. That's why we're here. We should never forget it. In closing, Hayagriva, our dear godbrother who joined Prabhupada a long time ago, he quotes Srila Prabhupada in his book, Vrindavan Days, 47. I'll leave you with this verse, just to know you're at the right place at the right time doing the right thing, and stay through Kartik. Here's what Prabhupada said one day. Yes, that effect of living in Vrindavan and being so close to Krishna cannot be underestimated. At every turn, you're reminded of Krishna here in Vrindavan, and your spiritual strength increases due to that contact. Shri Brajabhumi Shri Vrindavan Dhama ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, all the Brajbasis ki, Gaurnitai ki, Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Radhashama Sundar ki, Jai Gopimanandi, Jai Jai Sri Radhe Shyam. Hare Krishna, thank you.